Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a stack of sources here covering something really quite well wild. This very public and frankly surprising conflict that's blown up between President Donald Trump and tech figure Elon Musk. And this isn't just some personal spat, you know. Our sources are showing it's actually having ripple effects impacting political alliances, messing with legislative plans, and generally shaking up the Republican Party landscape quite a bit.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to really unpack these sources, try to trace the origins of this feud, look at the key moments, the flashpoints, and figure out what it all means for you and the wider political scene. I mean, how did we even get here from what was often described as strategic alliance, even a personal bromance, to this kind of public name calling?
It's a really stark shift. And what the sources detail is a remarkably fast collapse of that relationship. President Trump's reaction, as reported, has been incredibly sharp, very public. It signals just how deep this break goes. We have direct quotes attributed to him, like calling Musk the man who has lost his mind. So it's a pretty strong personal language. He's also quoted saying he's not particularly interested in speaking with Musk right now, and then kind of doubling down on that dismissal later, saying something like, poor guy's got a problem. You know, the sources even mentioned this symbolic thing, Trump apparently considering selling his cherry red Tesla. That car was once seen as maybe a nod to their connection, so thinking about selling it really underscores how completely things have soured from those days of public support and collaboration. It's quite the turnaround.
Wow, yeah, that level of intensity, that language, it really suggests there must have been a pretty significant trigger. Our sources seem to zero in on one specific catalyst for this public falling out. Musk's very vocal criticism of a major legislative push from the administration, the one some sources are calling the One Big Beautiful Bill. What exactly was it about that bill, or maybe Musk's criticism of it, that appears to have set President Trump off so strongly? And how did Musk respond, or maybe even escalate things from his side?
Well, the sources definitely highlight Musk's criticism focusing on that legislative package. He apparently framed his objections around concerns about the national debt potentially ballooning, and also worries that the bill might actually undermine innovation key themes for him. But it seems he didn't stop at just policy points. The personal dimension got ramped up too. Our sources point to him making this unsubstantiated claim that references Trump in connection with unreleased Jeffrey Epstein files. Now that's a move that seems clearly designed to, hit a nerve, escalate things personally. And it's also significant how he did it, using his X platform. A platform, remember, that he once seemed to suggest was helpful for Trump's outreach. Now it's being used as a tool against him in this very public fight. We saw some initial reactions from GOP leadership, people like Speaker Mike Johnson, sort of reaffirming their commitment to the bill, maybe trying to steady the ship. But the reporting also shows definite signs of unease up on Capitol Hill, particularly among Republicans involved with things like the DOGE program, that government efficiency initiative Musk actually had a hand in designing. So his words clearly carried weight and caused some internal ripples.
It's really fascinating when you consider how intertwined their alliance seemed to be with Trump's political path. Some figures, like House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, are even quoted suggesting Trump's 2024 success might not have happened without Musk's backing. Sources mention Musk having these maybe informal advisory roles, especially on tech and government reform. So given that backdrop, that apparent closeness, what does this incredibly rapid souring right after Musk steps back from those roles and starts hitting hard on fiscal policy tell us about the nature of these kinds of alliances between political leaders and, powerful tech figures like Musk?
I think it tells us these alliances, while potentially very strategic and mutually beneficial for a time, can also be quite transactional.
Yeah.
It may be fragile, especially when core policy disagreements surface like this. But what's really complex here, according to the sources, is Musk's unique position even now, despite this very public, very harsh feud. He still holds significant sway with the Republican base. The poll numbers cited are quite striking. You see figures like 76, maybe 77% favorability among Republicans in polls from The Economist YouGov and the NYT Siena. That actually puts him ahead of most established GOP leaders, maybe only trailing Trump himself and someone like J.D. Vance. And this popularity connects to base support for ideas he championed, like that DOGE program concept, government efficiency. Harvard-Harris polling showed something like 90% Republican support for those kinds of cuts and effectiveness measures. So this makes him what one source calls a uniquely dangerous rival. Not necessarily a rival to replace Trump on a ballot, but more like a chaos agent, maybe a potential bomb within the party dynamic. Think about it. He has immense personal wealth to potentially fund primary challenges against Trump allies. He owns X, which means, as one source bluntly put it, he can deplatform you, trash you to his 220 million followers. That's immense power over the narrative and attention. He even threw down a kind of gauntlet, suggesting he'll be a force for 40-plus years, compared to Trump's potential remaining 3.5 years. Now, sources do acknowledge his limitations. The DOGE run was polarizing. He might be a liability in a general election, but his influence through his platform, his wealth, and that residual base appeal is undeniably still there. He's a factor they can't just wish away.
Right, so this isn't contained, is it? It's not just an internal DC or US political drama. Our sources are indicating that the ripples from this feud are spreading much wider, crossing borders, and even hitting financial markets. What kind of broader impacts are we seeing reported in these sources?
Exactly. The sources mention international reactions reports suggesting leaders in places like Berlin might be, perhaps, quietly relieved. Trump's focus was elsewhere for a moment, and you even had Russia reportedly offering, maybe mockingly, to mediate the dispute between the two. And then there's the market angle reports of Tesla's stock price actually rebounding a bit after some initial volatility presumably linked to the feud's uncertainty. Stepping back, what this whole episode really seems to reveal, fundamentally, is a fascinating power struggle playing out in the current political landscape. On one side, you have Trump, who commands immense, almost unprecedented loyalty within his party structure. He kind of owns the party apparatus in many ways. But on the other side, you have Musk, holding these significant independent cards, staggering wealth, a huge digital platform, lingering popularity with the base, and importantly, a pretty good understanding of MAGA pressure points. This whole dynamic is clearly forcing Republicans into some uncomfortable positions, having to navigate between their established leader and this incredibly powerful, somewhat unpredictable outsider who wields very modern forms of influence. It's definitely reshaping power dynamics in ways we're still figuring out.
So, when you boil it down, what does this deep dive really mean for you, listening?
Well, this very public clash between two extremely powerful individuals isn't just political entertainment. Our sources strongly suggest it's actually pulling back the curtain on some deeper tensions and actively reshaping how power works right now.
And that leaves us with a pretty important question for you to think about. Looking ahead, how might these kinds of conflicts between major figures who leverage not just political standing, but immense personal wealth and control over massive digital platforms, how might these continue to challenge traditional political loyalties and reshape the dynamics within parties in the future? It's certainly something worth considering.